Are you ready to answer some questions?
I think so. Are you ready to answer some questions?
No, but we're here.
Matthew's sick. But he's here. He's ready to
up.
answer questions for you.
Hey everybody, we're Michael and Matt, and we are in the process of surrogacy. A little bit of background, we started this process in January, so it's been about 11 months now, and it's our first time pursuing surrogacy or starting a family in general, so we are new to the process, but we are learning.
Along with you.
So we started this in January, we found a surrogacy agency, an IVF clinic, and then we found an egg donor. We just signed our contracts and gave payments, and so
We're in the egg donation process right now, and then right after that will be the embryo creation process, and then we'll be ready to match with the surrogate. Our egg donor is going through like a hormone cycle to then harvest eggs, and that should be in a couple days.
that gives you an idea of like where we're at in the trajectory of things.
Questions now?
I'm ready for the questions.
You look ready.
I'm so ready.
How do you find a surrogate?
That's a great question. I would love to know.
Typically, you're gonna find a surrogate through your surrogacy agency. They're gonna handle a lot of the like legalese of everything. Part of their job is to also have a database of surrogates, or at least reach out to people who want to be surrogates and help you find somebody to match with.
That's one of the main reasons of even getting a surrogacy agency, is that they're the connector and connecting you with a viable surrogate that's going to be a good match, and helping with the communication, the legal stuff, the payments, all of that. The second biggest way to find a surrogate is on your own, through people that you know, either online or friends. These days, that is very common just because there are so many people who want to have kids out there, and there are not a lot of eligible surrogates that can carry right now.
One, you might want to be a surrogate, but you might not qualify. There are steps that you have to take to even qualify to be a surrogate, even if in your heart of hearts you want to be a surrogate. It sort of narrows it down to people who want to be and then people who are eligible.
The qualifications include having a successful pregnancy and birth prior. So you've had to have carried a baby before you can become a surrogate for somebody else. You have to be in good health. You have to be within a certain age range.
And you have to be a genetic match.
All that being said, we are still looking for a surrogate. So if you know a surrogate, or if you are a surrogate, like, reach out, because we're looking. I would do it, but I cannot carry a baby.
Similarly, how do you find an egg donor?
Again, there's multiple ways to find an egg donor. You can find it through an IVF clinic, a surrogacy agency, or through family and friends on your own.
Your IVF clinic is essentially like the people that are doing all the science background. They're screening you, they're screening the egg donor, they're screening the surrogate to make sure that all the biology is gonna work as best as it possibly can.
Some have a database of eligible egg donors, and these are people who maybe have carried a baby before, maybe have not carried a baby, but they want to donate their eggs. They do a bunch of genetic testing, see if you're actually compatible with them, and then go through a matching process and then go through the egg donation. Another route is through your surrogacy agency. Much like your IVF clinic, they might have a database of eligible egg donors. That's the route that we took. It is actually kind of a new thing with our surrogacy agency. They now have a database. They just launched it within the last year. They have some eligible donors. We looked online, found a great match, and we were like, yeah, let's do this.
There are also private agencies that are just essentially egg donor databases that you can look at. The egg donors can sometimes be international, so depending on how specific you want to get, that will incur some more costs, but it's possible.
And you can also choose whether you're gonna have a fresh donation or a frozen donation. The thing with using frozen eggs is you typically get a lot fewer viable embryos. And just over time, eggs go bad, right? Just like you don't want to leave them in the refrigerator.
It's the exact same concept. Exact same concept. Do you choose the biological sex?
You can.
You can. It's possible to go through, again, some sort of genetic testing where you get to know if you're XX or XY chromosome. Some people choose to not go through that. It is an additional cost.
One of the benefits of testing for biological sex of your embryos is that it's also packaged in with seeing the viability of your embryos. We are going to opt for that testing just so that we know whether or not, our embryos are like how high likelihood of making it to birth. Yes, it's an additional cost, but I think for sure, at least for us, it's totally worth it. Any mistake that could be avoidable, you want to do everything in your power to avoid that. But will we want to know the biological sex? I don't know, we haven't crossed that bridge yet, so we're going to be waiting, and then we'll see what happens when we have embryos, and we'll be having that conversation with each other.
Everybody's so sweet in asking us all these questions about like, are you pregnant? Are you gonna have a boy or a girl? Are you gonna have a boy and a girl, boy, or whatever? What are their names? Have you looked at names? We are taking everything so just one step at a time, not trying to jump ahead too far and kind of lose focus of like the spot that we're in. We have no idea whether or not we're gonna do boy boy, boy girl, girl girl. We don't even know for sure if we're gonna do twins. Like that's our hope, but we don't even know.
So much
like,
could change.
It could change. And we're so far from being pregnant.
Just trying to look at today. I mean, speaking about babies and children and all these things, it's only fitting that we bring up the child tax credit. I want to bring this up because it's just very timely for this time of year, because the time between midterm elections and the end of the year is a very narrow window where Congress can actually pass this.
The child tax credit was essentially a reaction to the pandemic. It gave each family $3,000 to $3,600 per year per child to kind of help with, I mean, all the expenses that come with that. People lost their jobs, people had to stay home. It lifted a lot of children out of poverty, and it was a huge success.
Yes, the child tax credit of 2021 actually kept 2.9 million children out of poverty. Yet still today, millions of working Americans, Black and Latino mothers in particular, are still not able to access childcare or paid family leave. So obviously there's still more to be done, and there's still a huge need for this child tax credit. I know we're talking about babies, but eliminating childhood poverty should be one of the top priorities in America. We know this, and we just think it's important to know about right now, especially this time of year. The more you know. All right, next question.
How long will the surrogate matching be? We have waited almost 2 years.
Wow, yeah, that's a long time, but I'm also not surprised because surrogate matching can take for freaking ever.
We touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but it's just like, it's hard to be a surrogate. It's hard to like volunteer your body for somebody else. It's also hard to be qualified, so it can take a long time.
We're looking at a big thing of supply and demand. So it can take many, many years to match with a surrogate. What can speed that up? Because like going through a surrogacy agency, you can be put on a waiting list, and it just depends how many surrogates they have on their list and how many actually make it through the vetting process. But through connections online, through connections through friends and family, if you're able to find somebody who is an eligible surrogate, then that can speed up the process a lot faster.
You might be surprised. I have a cousin whose friend just wanted to be a surrogate, and that was her like lifelong dream, and she was their surrogate, and they matched right away.
For a lot of us, it's going to be a very long waiting period, and that's okay. We're okay to wait until it's the right time, the right person. None of this process is something that you want to rush. I at least do not want to rush it. I would rather things just go well and smoothly than to be like a bull let loose in a china shop with babies.
Which is how he acts on a normal daily basis.
And I'm just learning to be patient. But seriously, if you know of any surrogates, like let us know, because we need to start now.
No, we're fine. Was picking an egg donor the hardest part for you? I know it was for us.
So far, absolutely yes. It
Yeah.
was the hardest part. I'm just trying to like, I don't know, look at random profiles and be like, is this person going to be the mother of my child?
It's a little bit unique, the experience, and something that I wasn't necessarily prepared for was just looking through this, like, here's a photo, here's like all the demographic information, here are the answers to the questions.
And another big aspect that we didn't even think about before we started this process is whether or not you're going to do an open egg donation or a closed anonymous egg donation. And both of these have big implications for kind of like how you're gonna go about telling your child who their genetic mother is in the future. These are bridges we're gonna be crossing 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line. So it's just interesting to be answering those questions now because we don't have experience with that, and we don't really, the guidance, it was something we weren't expecting.
Do you love just like the intense lighting situation change between the beginning and right now?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Oregon. We opted to do something that I guess is unique, which was interview a few, I guess you would say, candidates. That for us was the biggest deciding factor, was that we got to actually talk to some of the potential egg donors, the potential mother of our children. So I would say definitely do that if you can.
I also really appreciated just being able to read through the profiles online, because seeing those responses and being able to relate with the person who is looking to donate their eggs. After reading somebody's profile, whether it's a Tinder profile, a MySpace profile, or an egg donation profile.
We've all learned at this point how to like give a general first impression online.
Then I feel more connected and I'm more willing to be like, yeah, I'll have a baby with you. So that's that.
My partner and I want to go through this. What does the cost look like? Does insurance cover anything?
Oh, goodness.
I think some same-sex couples are able to get part of the fertility portion covered in somewhere maybe between like $5,000 to $10,000. There's a lot of factors, but I think that there's a small portion that can be covered through insurance, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't end up being that impactful.
How expensive is it?
How expensive is it?
It is very expensive, at least to us. This is the most expensive thing that we have ever looked at pursuing.
Besides buying a house.
Besides buying a house, but even that's like small monthly payments. This is like huge payments all at you know, big chunks. We started this in January, and so far we have spent over $75,000.
And we're just essentially to the creating of embryos phase.
We haven't even created embryos yet, and we've paid $75,000.
So that still means that we need to find a surrogate, compensate the surrogate, pay for the transfer,
the hormones that go with all that,
pay for the added insurance, pay for the hormones that are...
all the legalese behind that.
There's health insurance involved when the babies are born, there's out-of-pocket costs there.
Altogether, at the beginning, we were told that this is somewhere between $150,000 to $200,000 on average, and now I'm starting to think like, hey, I don't really see how this is going to be below $200,000 at the end of this. The numbers aren't quite adding up to this point, so I don't know if things have changed since we've started 11 months ago, or if it's just that drastic of a difference from what people talk about to what it actually is.
Or if we've covered more costs than we realize, I'm not sure.
That's also possible.
But it's just another reason that we're not necessarily rushing this process, is the more that we can sort of like save up and bank each month, the more comfortable we are, you know, with each new bill that comes in. So that's just another thing to think about. You might actually need that time just to like
save up
wait a little bit, and then like we'll get to that next part later when we're ready.
You can save a lot of money if you are working with a surrogate who wants to take a small amount of money or not get paid at all. That's a whole nother thing. Yeah. But like, you know, some people altruistically want to just do it for the sake of being pregnant and going through that process, which is absolutely incredible and selfless, but it's a rare occurrence. And so, you know, sometimes you hear about things like that. I will say with the payments and everything, I don't think Michael and I were quite prepared. It's one thing to hear about it or to see it on paper, but then it's another thing when you're actually putting out the bills or putting out the payments. It's a little bit of shock and awe of like, oh my God, we're actually paying that much money, and that's what's happening right now. And we are at a weird point in the process because we haven't, you know, we don't have embryos yet. We don't. So all we've done physically is go and donate our sperm. And so I'm just like, my mind's kind of like, okay, $75,000 later, and I have ejaculated into a cup.
That's life, you know? Costs a lot of money to make a baby.
When you first have your consultation or you're talking to a surrogacy agency, you typically do get like a pricing sheet that shows you a little bit of a breakdown. A lot of those things, initially when I read it, I thought, ooh, do we really need that? Or is that something that we're actually gonna have to pay? And a lot of it, I just didn't know what it was in general. So something I would like to do, maybe, is to take that list or take a couple of those lists and go through the whole thing on a video to be able to explain what we've experienced with each of these line items so that we can actually like have a detailed breakdown of the prices. I don't know if that's of interest. Comment below, let us know, because gonna take a little bit of research. So we have a lot more questions to go through, but I think we're gonna save it for another video.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to give it a like.
If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, because we're gonna be talking about this process for a while. Go ahead and comment below if you have any other questions.
Leave us some fun baby names.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that yesterday.
Also follow us along on Instagram and TikTok. That's it, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
This is our only child right now. Well, this is one of two children. Avi, say hello.